Hey, everybody. This is just sort of a little unscripted rant. I've just been bothered by this, and I just feel the need to get it off my chest. Uh, I've been paying attention to a lot of the news concerning Iron Man 3, and uh, basically, as far as Iron Man 3 goes, it's slated for a 2013 release date. It's slated to be directed by Shane Black, the guy who wrote the scripts for Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. As far as action movies go, he's a pretty good guy, but uh, the ideas for Iron Man 3 really disturb me. Um, Basically, from what I hear, it's going to be very highly inspired by the extremist storyline, which I'm not a huge fan of because I kind of find that storyline to be overrated. Um, it's nowhere near the best Iron Man storyline, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, it was cool that they found a way to bring Iron Man into the modern age, but to be honest, I consider a lot of older Iron Man story arcs to be way superior. But that's just me. Personally, I kind of prefer Iron Man in old school adventure stories with maybe some science fiction and fantasy blended in. I don't like Iron Man when they make him way too realistic. And that's the problem I have with what they're trying to do here with Iron Man 3. And that brings me to the character you see here, the Mandarin. The Mandarin is probably my third favorite Marvel villain ever. I've loved the Mandarin for a long time. For me, he's right up there with Ultron and Annihilus because he is Iron Man's arch enemy. No other enemy out there has tested Tony Stark's abilities like the Mandarin. I mean, the Mandarin has been there from the very beginning. He made it all the way from the Stan Lee era all the way to the modern day, and he has plagued Iron Man time and time and time and time again. In my eyes, the Mandarin very much is to Iron Man what the Joker is to Batman, what Lex Luthor is to Batman, what the Green Goblin is to Spider-Man, what Doctor Doom is to the Fantastic Four, what Magneto is to the X-Men. You get my drift. He is Iron Man's number one bad guy. And the plans that I am hearing for the way that they are going to do the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 really piss me off. Because apparently, when they first announced that the Mandarin wasn't going to be in the movie, I was thinking, oh well, I guess it'll be a chance to bring in another Iron Man villain, because Iron Man's got a pretty decent rogues gallery. I won't lie, and I thought what they did with Whiplash and Iron Man 2 was pretty cool. How they fused both him and Crimson Dynamo. I thought that was kind of ingenious because it doesn't really do anything to the Crimson Dynamo character because there's like freaking 15 Crimson Dynamos. So if they wanted to bring him into a movie, they could choose from any single one of those characters. So I was thinking, hey, that's Whiplash, you know. I'm willing to accept that. But the way that they're going about doing Iron Man 3 just completely rubs me the wrong way. Supposedly, they're going to be the Mandarin isn't going to be a person. Now, before I go any further, I want to quote what Shane Black said. What Shane Black had said about the Mandarin that really egged me on was the fact that, oh, well, I don't want to put the Mandarin in my movie because, you know, he's too much of a stereotype. he would be, he might prove offensive to all the Asian people watching the movie. That is the most bullshit excuse I have ever heard. I mean, good lord. Yeah, because the way that, racial minorities or foreign people were portrayed in the first two movies, that wasn't stereotypical or offensive or generalized at all. Look at the way they portrayed Arab people in the first Iron Man movie. Look, these are all Arab guys. They're all portrayed as being like stereotypical Al-Qaeda religious extremists. They've got freaking big guns that they're firing in the air. They've got fucking RPGs and shit. They live in caves, for God's sake. You can't get more stereotypical than that. I mean, come on. Fucking Middle Eastern Arab terrorist guys who live in caves and they all wear rags and they carry guns. You can't get more racially offensive than that. Or better yet, look at the way they portray Russian people in the second movie. What do we see of Russia in Iron Man 2? Oh, well, it's snowy. And from what we see Ivan Vanko come from like a poor Russian gulag. Yeah, that's not a bad generalization of Russia right there. That's the most piss-poor excuse I've ever heard for not including the Mandarin. I mean, I would have been fine with them keeping the Mandarin till like the fourth movie or something, but the fact that they are sticking with the Mandarin for the third movie, but what they're planning to do is that they're planning to make the Mandarin not a person, but like an organization, a group. This really pissed me off because one thing that a lot of people, one big misconception about the Mandarin that a lot of people make is that the Mandarin has magic powers. This is totally untrue. The Mandarin's powers are not magic. His 10 rings are alien technology. Okay? I did a fucking Supervillains Explored video about this character. Trust me, I know my Mandarin stuff, okay? I mean, why didn't they research this? Why do they have to make such a convoluted origin for the character in the movie? Why does it have to be a whole group of people? That's retarded. There's so many different awesome ways you could do the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 and make it work. Look at what Matt Fraction did with the Mandarin. The way that Mandarin... I remember reading this one Matt Fraction comic where like the Mandarin was talking to this one documentary filmmaker guy, and he was talking about how when he actually found the alien spacecraft in the Hidden Valley, he actually used some of the wealth he gained from that spacecraft to fund this terrorist leader named Raza with Stark weapons. And that happened to be the exact same terrorist leader guy from the first Iron Man movie. The main bad guy, the bald one that Stain kills. That would have been an awesome way to tie the third movie to the first one. That would have been great. That would have been a great way to do the Mandarin. The Mandarin could be scary. You could hire an actor like the actor I had in mind was Ken Watanabe. He's a great actor. He was scary as hell when he played the decoy for Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that I don't like the fact that they're trying to make Iron Man 3 all realistic when we have the Avengers movie coming out, which is, which is pretty goddamn far from realistic from what I can see. I mean, okay, you've got aliens, you've got frost giants, you've got Thor doing magic shit, you've got spaceships and huge giant flying worm robots and crap. It's pretty fucking far from realistic, at least from what I can say. So why are they keeping the Iron Man movies so grounded? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. There's so much potential for a great story, and now that we know that the Iron Man movies take place within the same continuity as, like, Thor, you can't really do magic or, over the top science fiction in an Iron Man movie and have it jump the shark. It's impossible. I don't think you should even be worried about that anymore, considering that it's a freaking comic book movie to begin with. There's no excuse why you shouldn't just go nuts, with the source material. I probably sound like a fanboy, and to be honest, I am making a pretty big fanboy complaint. But one thing that you can't deny is that if they go with this type of origin for the Mandarin, you can't deny that this sounds pretty lazy and contrived, and there are dozens of different ways to introduce the Mandarin that doesn't involve butchering the character from the comics. You know why I care so much? Because it's the fucking Mandarin. He is Iron Man's arch nemesis. He's like Moriarty to Sherlock Holmes. You've got to include him in here, and you've got to include him the way he is. You can't change him. I mean, yeah, you can change him a little bit, but don't change him so much that he's a goddamn crime organization. I mean, if you're going to put crime organizations into an Iron Man movie, then they should either be AIM or the Magia. One crime organization shouldn't be based on one damn character from the comics. That's stupid. That's retarded. It's excessive. It's overly complicated. Okay, we know how far these movies can go now. I mean, shit, at the end of Iron Man 2, we saw Thor's freaking hammer. And we know that the Thor movies and the Iron Man movies are interconnected. Okay, but one thing I do want to clarify is that these are all rumors. Okay? Now, I just want to speak my mind here and just let people know what I think about all this. If all of this is disproven, I will gladly remove this video. Trust me. If it turns out that the Mandarin will actually be given his due in Iron Man 3, then screw it. I won't keep this video around anymore. I'll happily remove it. But if it does turn out that they're going with that bullshit origin plot for the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, then I'm still going to vocally oppose it, because that's not the Mandarin. The Mandarin is not an organization of random criminals and terrorists. The Mandarin is a man, an Asian man, who knows a shitload of kung fu and spiritual techniques, and he possesses 10 alien rings of vast alien technology that he stole from a starship commanded by a race of giant alien dragons that can shapeshift. That's who the Mandarin is. And he's plagued, and he has made Tony Stark's life a living hell for like 50 years in the comics. And because of that, he deserves to be done justice in a live-action film. And I just feel like going with this idea for the Mandarin is simply not right. And even though it's unlikely, and even though they dropped a small little bitty hint at it in the first Iron Man movie, I want to see Fin Fang Foom. Yeah, that's right. I want to see my favorite giant smart-mouthed alien dragon put into given the live-action treatment. Think about it. Iron Man and War Machine, possibly the Mandarin. Whether they want to adapt the Dragon Seed Saga or not is up to them. But Iron Man, War Machine, and Mandarin, and Fin Fang Foom. Tell me that wouldn't make little kids go crazy in the theaters. I'm just dropping all these suggestions because, with the Avengers out, I just kind of think I'm just sitting here thinking that, there are no limits of believability or, grounded reality that they can really impose on all these movies anymore. I think any type of over the top comic booky type elements that you can put into these live action films is fair game. Okay. I wanted to see the Skrulls in the Avengers movie, but apparently they didn't have the rights because Fox still has the Fantastic Four movie rights. And maybe they just didn't want to put aliens that looked a whole hell of a lot like the Green Goblin in there. Who knows? But I'm still psyched for the Avengers. And you know what? I'm hoping that they'll change that idea for the Mandarin. But this is all speculation. All the stuff I've heard is speculation, so there's no way to tell. Anyways, that's my little rant on Iron Man 3. Be sure to leave a comment. Goodbye.